Hey everybody, here we are, week 11 of the Big Book Study. I can't even believe it's been 11 weeks, but listen, today we're getting into how it works, and this is really where we start getting into the meat and potatoes of the 12 steps. Erik breaks down the 12 steps today briefly, but we do get into a lot of detail, so make sure you follow along in your big book and also take notes. And, any questions that you have, since this is the recording, any questions you have, there's an opportunity inside the portal for you to leave comments or submit questions. So today, first half of how it works. Next week, week 12, we get into obviously the second half of how it works. So I know you're going to love this. Enjoy week 11.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be back again. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm here with my green shirt on, and you're just not open-minded. So here we are. We're in how it works. And so for the last, since we started this, we've been doing we did steps 1, 2, and 3 in the last chapters. And steps 1, 2, and 3, we're looking out, right? In step 1, we admit that we're powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable. Not a lot of work there. It's just consuming. It's a thought process, understanding that, this is what's wrong with me. Step 2, we make a decision. We decide that a power greater than ourselves, we come to realize a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Step 3, we're going to let it. That's all. There's no work there. It's just, that's all out here. Now at step 4, we're going to look inside. This is, and from here on out, actually from we agnostics on out, we no longer talk about alcohol. That part's done. From now on, we're talking about the spiritual experience and a psychic change. So this how it works starts on page 58, and we read this at the beginning of almost every meeting. They hand it out to somebody to read how it works, and usually somebody just drones through it, and nobody pays attention because we've heard it 1,000 times, but we don't really break it down. Tonight we're going to break it down. So it starts on page 58. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. And it's been said that they asked Bill W. years later if there's anything he would change in the book, and his answer was that he would change that from rarely to never. Have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path? Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves, and that means constitutionally means it's in my makeup. I am constitutionally means I'm not able at all because of the way I'm made. I am not able to be honest with myself. So constitutionally incapable of being honest with yourself would be like people with narcissistic personality disorder, maybe, or mental patients, people who just can't. They have something wrong up here and they can't get honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. And they're going to mention honesty multiple times here just in this first paragraph. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. So there they mention this honesty in the first 3 times in the first paragraph. And that honesty they're referring to is self-honesty. It's not necessarily cash register honesty, which, yes, you want to live an honest life, but you can go really far down the rabbit hole with this. What we're referring to here is to thine own self be true. Self-honesty, which is questioning my motives and everything, right? And really being willing to see myself the way the world sees me. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. So we talked about that There Is a Solution. We talked about how this program is all about change and how ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the driving force of these men, have been cast aside and a whole new set of ideas, emotions, and attitudes begin to dominate them. Well, here it's asking us to set aside our old ideas. The result was nil until we let go absolutely. So if we hold on to our old ideas, we got absolutely zero results, none, until we could let go of those ideas and be willing to change. Remember, we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us, but there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now! Exclamation point. There is absolutely no ambiguity in that sentence. For anybody who wonders, it says it right there. We are going to talk about God. We already have. There's one that has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. And we've already talked about how that God is a God of your understanding. Half measures availed us nothing. Doesn't say half measures availed us a little bit. Didn't say maybe if you do some of these steps, maybe let's say you do 11 steps and you don't do step 12, which we see all the time, or you do steps 1 through 3 and then you don't do the rest of the steps. Half measures availed us nothing. It didn't get us half sober. It didn't make us better doing 8 out of 12 steps. No, it availed us absolutely nothing. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. And there's a very, very important word in that sentence, and that's the word took. Here are the steps we took. This is a spiritual program of action. So it doesn't say here are the steps we sat around and discussed. Here are the steps we read, pontificated upon. No, it says here are the steps we took, which means we are going to be doing some work and we're going to be putting pen to paper eventually.
Do you have a drug addict in your life or an alcoholic in your life and you don't know what to do? You don't know how to handle them and you don't know what to do about the situation. You probably, in the worst way, want them to get clean. You want them to get sober, but you don't know how to have the conversation with them. You've tried everything. You've tried forcing them into treatment. You've tried removing things from them. You've tried taking away their car. You've tried kicking them out of the house. Whatever the case is, you don't know what else to do. We have watched hundreds, if not thousands of families navigate this situation the same way that you are right now. They're concerned, they're lost, and they're sad. That's why we came out with the Family Reconnect program. Inside this program, we're going to take you on a journey. It's really a journey on self-discovery. We want you to understand and have better knowledge how to control yourself, how to navigate these situations, and ultimately get the outcome that you have always been looking for. Now, this isn't going to be easy. There's a lot of work involved. We're going to give you a whole curriculum. We're going to ask you questions. We're going to have you think. We're going to have you reflect on past situations that may have frustrated you. You're going to get uncomfortable, but it's all part of the process. Getting through the uncomfortability is what we need to do in order to grow. But rest assured, we're coming along your side the whole entire journey. There's a lot of twists and turns that can happen when you're on this journey. You know better than anybody else that what today is like may be completely different than tomorrow. That's why we're here. You're going to have access to myself, Ben, Dr. Tambini, and the rest of your peers that you can bounce stuff off of. It's important to have a strong sense of community when going through this. You can do this. We know that you can because we've seen plenty of people get through this in the past and we've helped them navigate these situations, and it's an absolute blessing for us to be able to see these families come together, because I will tell you this, you're going to get an outcome that's a lot different than what you're used to. And we've seen families reconnect. We've seen bonds grow stronger. We've seen marriages come to life. We've seen children and parents have stronger relationships than they ever have in the past. That is why we do what we do. We want you to come on this journey with us. We want to help you get through this situation, and we want to help your family reconnect. You cannot help them until you help yourself. We hope to see you on the inside.
So we're going to go through a little breakdown. I'm going to go through all 12 of these, and I'm going to break them down briefly. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. And for me, what step 1 tells me, for me, is that I can never pick up a mind-altering substance again. I can never put a mind or mood-altering substance in my body again, or I will have to be stopped. That's it. Party's over, Rover. I can't handle drugs and alcohol. They handle me. And here's the kicker. It's never going to be different. Ever. I pick up a drink, 20 years from now, I will be catapulted right back to the insanity. That's what step 1 is. It's understanding this in my bones. I'm powerless over alcohol. Look, if I can't take a drink without winding up drunk because of the allergy, and that's exactly what the doctor's opinion tells us, and more about alcoholism is I can't take a drink without winding up drunk because of the allergy, but I can't not take a drink because of the obsession of the mind. So if I can't take a drink without winding up drunk, but I can't not take a drink, then I'm powerless over alcohol. And my life had become unmanageable by me. My life was an absolute mess. And what that means to me, that my life is unmanageable by me, my life was managed by alcohol. Alcohol and drugs dictated where and when I chose to participate in life. I couldn't go certain places. I couldn't hang out with certain people because they didn't drink the way I did, or there wasn't alcohol there. Couldn't go on vacation because I didn't have someone to sell me cocaine there. It dictated where and when I chose to participate in life completely. So my life was unmanageable by me. It was being managed by my addiction. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And for me, when I came in, that power greater than myself, it doesn't say God here. It doesn't say God yet. It says a power greater than ourselves. And I hear people come in, and in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, they read this book, or they tell me that, well, when I came in here, this was like Chinese to me. I couldn't understand a word of it. That wasn't my experience. I'm a well-read man. I can read every single word in here. I can tell you exactly what it says. Most of the people watching this or listening to this can as well. My problem when I read it myself was I wasn't buying it. I'm just not believing it. How is this stuff what does any of this have to do with me staying sober? But when I met a man who I believed had taken a flamethrower to his life the way I had mine, I believe this man had destroyed his life the way I had mine, that he drank like I did and did drugs like I did. When I sat down with him to go through this book and I could see these 12 steps carved out in that man's life, I could see these 9-step promises had come to fruition in that man's life. Well, now I had hope. Now I had hope because I believed that he was like me. And that was a power greater than myself to start, was the absolute power of one sober alcoholic. I don't care if it's 6 decades, 6 years, 6 months. I couldn't stay sober for 6 minutes. Tell me how you did that. Show me how you did that. Take me by the hand, walk me through this program, and show me how you did that. That was the power greater than me. And that was where it started with me. And as going through this program, that power greater than me began to change. And eventually I developed a relationship with a God of my understanding, and that's the power greater than me today. But it started with one sober alcoholic. Step 3, I make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care, and originally it said the care and direction of God as we understood him. And for me, that was making a commitment to do these steps. It was making a commitment to live my life by these 12-step principles. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And it says searching and fearless, right? And moral inventory. Moral means having to do with the right and wrong of human behavior. So I'm going to go back through my past, and I'm really going to look fearlessly. I'm going to look at my past and my behavior. And, the reason why it's fearless is, look, I've done things in my life that I was going to take to my grave. I've done things that I don't ever want anybody to know about. Embarrassing things that I did to get what I need. I didn't want to tell anybody that stuff. And my sponsor said to me, he said, how free do you want to be? You better write it all down. You better get it down there. And I did. I wrote it all down. All the dirty, seedy stuff that I've done. And people, I've heard all of it. And now I've got a record. I've got a record right here in front of me. I always thought I was this guy. Well, guess what? The record, I can't be this guy. Because the record shows I'm this guy. This is who I really am. And I don't want to be this guy. I used to tell you, I was a good man who did bad things, but I wasn't. The record shows I wasn't. I was a bad man who did bad things when I was drinking and drugging. There wasn't a redeeming quality about me. But that's going to change. And that's my step 4. I write all that stuff down. In step 5, I admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And I hear people say all the time, yeah, you get rid of that stuff. You tell it to your sponsor and you get rid of it. And that's not what happened. I'm not getting rid of anything. I tell that stuff's already there. It's my past. It's already there. It's nailed down. It's done. What's done is done. It's not going anywhere. All I can do with it is commend it to the mercy of God and learn from it. And what I learned was who I really was. I actually learned that there's 3 me's. I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but this is where I learned it. There's 3 me's. There's the me that I want you guys to think I am. It's 1,000 yards off target. There's the me that I think I am. That's a little closer, but it's still pretty far downrange. And then there's the real me. The me that I don't want any of you to ever see. The me that I'm terrified you guys are going to find out about. That's the real me. That's who I am. And I don't want you guys to see that guy. I don't want that guy to ever come out. That's the real me. And I tell that to my sponsor. I tell it to God. And I get that out there. And now I've breathed life into it and I've made it real. And 6, become entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 6 is a preparation step. It sounds almost like they're talking us out of it. Like you have to become entirely ready to have God remove these defects in character. I found out in step 5 and step 4 who I really am, right? And in step 5, I tell it to another man. I commend it to the mercy of God. And now I'm going to ask God to remove this from me and to help me change, right? And why do I have to be ready? I have to be ready because for better or for worse, I know how to move in society as that guy. That's the guy I made myself into all my life. I know how to be that guy. That's the guy that kept me safe. Now you're telling me I can't be that guy. I can't drink and drug to fill that void and that weird emptiness inside, but I can't be that guy either. That was terrifying to me. But I have to be ready to do that because I'm about to change. This program's about to change me. In step 7, I humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. I humbly ask God to remove my shortcomings. And God's going to remove the ones he wants when he wants. But I've got to stop living in them. Right? So for me, if impatience is one of my character defects, and I have to learn the opposite. I have to learn and practice the opposite. I have to learn patience and start practicing patience. If one of my character defects is ego and pride, I have to learn the opposite. I have to become humble and practice humility. If it's dishonesty if I'm really dishonest and that's my character, then I have to learn and practice honesty. I have to put in the work here. God's not just taking them away if I'm still using them. Step 8, I made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. And step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And step 9 is, look, there's a reason why step 9 is step 9. I obviously work in the field of treatment. I've sponsored a lot of guys, and I see this happen a lot. I was probably the same way, but step 9 is the step that we want to do that immediately when we start getting sober. It's the first thing we want to do. We go into rehab and we want to get on the phone immediately, and we want to call back home to whoever it is that we still have standing behind us, and we want to go on the apology tour. I want to say it's literally the most selfish thing I can do. I have no idea how I've even hurt these people. What I'm really saying is, hey, tell me I've still got you. Tell me you're still there. Tell me I haven't lost absolutely everyone in my life. Tell me we're okay. Tell me we're good so I can feel better. And then I can go back to my room and I can take a nap. There's 2 sister fellowships to Alcoholics Anonymous. There's Al-Anon, which is for loved ones, wives, husbands, friends, brothers, sisters. And then there's ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. For as the book says, the warped lives of blameless children. Warped lives of blameless children. My son fits in that category. A warped childhood of no fault of his. Those two fellowships exist for one reason and one reason only. And that's to help people reclaim their lives and learn how to live whole again because of how sick I, the alcoholic, have made them. I've made them just as sick as I am. I'm sorry after 10 days in detox isn't going to cut it. The principle behind that 9th step is not forgiveness, it's justice. It's how do I make it right? And by the time I get to step 9, I've done steps 4 and 5. I've seen the truth about myself. I've swallowed a huge chunk of truth about myself. I've begun to see myself the way the world sees me. That's where my psychic change started. When I started to see myself the way the world saw me. So there's going to be some depth and weight behind that amends when I make it. It's not just going to be another sorry. And then step 10, I continued to take personal inventory. And when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And step 10, I hear people say all the time, this is the steps 10, 11, and 12. These are the maintenance steps. But they're not the maintenance steps. This is a growth step. These next three steps are continuing to grow. Step 10 is straight up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 every day. That's what step 10 is. Step 10 is me doing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 every day. It says in the book, I'm going to be taking inventory. In the morning when I wake up, I'm going to think about my day ahead. I'm going to take inventory of myself. At night when I go to sleep, when I lay my head on the pillow, I'm taking an inventory, a moral inventory of myself. Have I hurt anybody today? Do I owe an amends? This is constantly looking at my behavior and how I affect the world around me. That's what step 10 is. It's definitely not a maintenance step. I challenge anyone to take inventory of yourself, to take a moral inventory of yourself every day, let alone multiple times a day, and not change. Stay where you are. It's impossible. I challenge you to do that and not grow. This is an ongoing step forever. This becomes an attitude. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. That's a forever step. Forever continue to pray, meditate, and try to improve my conscious contact with God. And then step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So step 11 says, continued to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him. And in Bill's story, we read, the alcoholic who fails to enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others will not survive the certain trials and low spots that lie ahead. Step 12 is where the work and self-sacrifice for others comes in. Step 12 is me taking men through these steps. The operative word here in step 12 is having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message. The operative word is this message. So what is this message? You can ask a lot of people with sobriety, man. You go around an AA room and you ask people, what is this message? And you're going to get different answers. I guarantee it. You might get something like, well, if you pray to God every day and you bring God, you'll stay sober. If you call your sponsor every day, you're going to stay sober. Or the message is that you go to meetings and call your sponsor. The message that they're referring to here, this message, means they've already told us what it is, right? And this message is in this book, what we're going through. And this message is that if you work these 12 steps thoroughly and fearlessly, you will have a spiritual experience that will be significant enough to bring about a complete psychic change. And a psychic change is an improved shift in thought and behavior. The book also calls it a personality change. And that personality change will be sufficient enough to bring about recovery from alcoholism. That's the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the only one we've got. And I say that because, I see a lot of people. I sponsor a lot of guys. I've probably been guilty of this in the past too, but I see a lot of people. We start sponsoring and all of a sudden we like to think of ourselves as spiritual advisors and relationship advisors and financial advisors, and I don't know a group of people that can mess that stuff up worse than alcoholics. I'm none of those things. Alcoholics Anonymous knows alcoholism and recovery from it. And that's this message. And step 12, the second part to that is, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Practice these principles in all our affairs. And the principles they're referring to are the 12 steps. Yes, there's a principle behind all the 12 steps. Like the ninth step I just said, the principle behind it is justice. But I feel that what they're referring to here to practice these principles is referring to working these steps in my life. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Step 1, I work step 1 every day with my wife at home. I understand that I am powerless over that woman and the way she thinks, acts, and feels. After talking to her for 2 minutes in the morning, I'm praying to God to relieve me from the insanity of thinking that I can control the way that woman thinks, acts, and feels. And then I go right into a step 3 on her, and I turn her will and her life over to the care of God and not me. And boom, I'm good. When I hurt her, I make an amends to her immediately. I work these steps with her. Now, if I can do that with the people that I work with at work, I can do the same thing with them. I can do the same thing with the people in my life. Then I can put together 24 hours where I'm not in constant conflict with the world and the people about me. That's how I work those steps with the people in my life. And step 12 is, to carry this message, to see my life have a purpose today. I think all of our lives we look for purpose. Why am I here? What's my reasoning for being here? People go on mission trips around the world to help people and to live a life of purpose. We get sober and they're bringing them to us on vans. And you'll have life coaches, motivational speakers, self-help books. They'll tell you find what you're good at and what you love to do, and that's your purpose. And I don't believe that. And I don't believe that because I did not create me. I did not create me, and therefore I cannot begin to know the purpose for which I was created. It wasn't until that man took my hand through this program, placed it in God's hand, and taught me how to live in constant communion and companionship with my Creator that purpose was revealed to me. And what a greater purpose. I believe with all my heart that there is no exercise greater for the human condition than to reach down and help up your fellow man. And we're all blessed to be able to do that because of our alcoholism, because of our addiction and our subsequent recovery. We're blessed to be able to do that. And that's the 12 steps in a nutshell right there. And it's what that does, the change that when we talk about change, and there is a solution. The change for me to come in here and I was restless, irritable, discontent, angry, couldn't be of use to anybody, couldn't get along with people, to go to loving, caring, kind, wanting to help people. That's the psychic change. And it has more to do within here. I'm gonna leave you guys before I close out with this parable that I love to use about how these 12 steps. And next week, we're going to start breaking down how we do these 12 steps, but what they really did for me and how they fill that void that relieves that obsession in my mind that I need a drink, that a drink's going to make me feel better, right? And it's a parable of a coffee cup that I like to use, and it goes like this. I'm standing here with a cup of coffee. Someone comes up and bumps into me, and I spill coffee all over the place. Why'd I spill coffee? Because someone bumped into me? No. I spilled coffee because coffee's what was in the cup. If iced tea had been in the cup, well, I'd have spilled iced tea. The point is, it's easy to fake it until life comes along and bumps you, and it's gonna. Prepare yourself for sorrow. That's coming your way, whether you're sober or not. When life comes along and bumps you, what's inside of you is what's going to spill out. If what's inside of you is fear, jealousy, resentment, anger, that's what's going to spill out onto everyone around you. But if what's inside of you is gratitude, empathy, compassion, brotherly love, a heart of service. That's what's going to spill out of you. I thank God that that's what spills out of me today. I pray to God that's what spills out of me on my last. Tom, we're going to wrap it up right there.